Shalom, family, and thank you so much for joining us for this week's weekly news update. It's always a pleasure and a privilege when I get together with you for these weekly updates. Let me kill the air conditioning. Yes, we are already in Arizona, kicking on the air from time to time to bring that temp down just a little bit because it's starting to get warm already. So we went from cold to to warm. So thank you so much for joining us, and always glad to get together with all of you. Such a privilege and an honor. I really appreciate you guys joining us for these, and I'm thankful to every one of you who continue to share the links. Hopefully you can hear me okay. Somebody give me a 5x5, and hopefully everyone is doing well tonight. It's always our pleasure to get together and see you all uniting and in one accord. And again, I want to thank those of you that are joining us maybe for the first time. Perhaps this is the first time you're joining us live. Many of you are watching the rebroadcast, and so we're thankful for that. Hopefully you catch us live from time to time. And those of you that are joining us for the first time, we do have our website, remnantwatch.com, where we post all of the stories that we talk about here on our weekly news update. And you'll notice at the very top, this banner will take you right here to this broadcast. So you'll never miss them. If you just hit that, you'll always be able to catch us when we're on. And you'll also notice the addition of an additional banner right here. In this world, we're going to have tribulation. One of the things that we continue to encourage people to do is get prepared for things that do happen. And so you're welcome to download your free survival guides. These are just good checklists and things to help in these difficult times. And again, we cover the stories here that we talk about each week. And this is an excellent resource. And so we're really thankful to all of you who stand with this house, who support and encourage Remnant House and encourage our work here by your support, by your financial support, by your prayers, and by your love. These are the things that obviously make the difference, and especially your prayers. So we really do thank Yahuwah for all of you who are intercessors, who are serious about the things that are going on in the earth. And how many know that we're all seeing signs and indications that we are running out of time? And this is a good thing for us to take note of, because as we do, as we see the day approaching, we know that that's our signal to gather together, to be united and in one accord. I love the love that is being shared here on the chat. And so those of you that are maybe missing some fellowship out there, maybe you're one of those that are not getting as much fellowship as you'd like. Well, come on over. We certainly are happy when you stop by. And on that note, let's get into the news. There's a lot going on tonight as we get into the current events that are kind of shaping the world scene right now. And one of the things that's happening is I wanted to just hit this top story because it was just too right on scripture here. And so we have, this headline, Trump's drone display over Miami, a new golden age for both peace and hope, peace and safety, right? So we were told to watch out for this. That's why we made a note of this today and decided to make this the lead story, because we definitely want to keep our eye on what's going on, right? And when they shall say, according to the scripture, peace and safety, right? Then sudden destruction shall come upon them, as travail upon a woman with child. And so this was actually a video display over a giant dancing Donald Trump over Florida, and it went viral. And you can certainly catch it, and you can see it here. I don't know if you can, maybe I can put that. There you go, right up on the screen, so you guys can see that full screen there. And it was quite amazing. This is getting up there where you're starting to, I think, you're moving into some very, very dangerous areas here. And look at that, peacemaker, liberator of hostages. Oh my goodness, look at that. All right, and defender of freedom. And so this is Stronger Together, very, very interesting light show. Certainly recommend that you get on over and take a look at that. And a very, very interesting time we're living in, folks. So I just thought that was a good way to kick off the broadcast today, where we could see something like that is literally right there in front of you. So I don't even have words. I just kind of was like, wow, really, really? That's where we are? Okay, well, there you go. I don't think I need to have to interpret that much for everybody. I think you all can get what is being indicated there. So we'll keep an eye on that continuing thing we're watching. We're not even sure what we're watching. What we do know is things are changing in the world very, very quickly. And one of the challenges that we're seeing, of course, is the conflict, especially with the tariffs and everything else with China. And now there's some very serious warnings coming out of that conflict. And maritime industry is warning that China's port fees could sink the U.S. economy. This just came out just this last week. Industry leaders sound alarm. Proposed tariffs on Chinese ships threaten economic shockwaves across U.S. trade. Major maritime industry stakeholders are voicing strong opposition to the U.S. Trade Representative's proposed Section 301 actions targeting Chinese-built and operated vessels, warning of potentially catastrophic effects on U.S. trade and consumer prices. Well, only if we're buying Chinese goods. So the entire point of the tariff system is to slow down the goods coming from China. So they intend to do that, and they intend to make it very expensive to buy from overseas, because the obvious effort of the United States president is to build up the manufacturing within the United States that did travel overseas. The United States used to be a much more manufacturing-based economy, and that moved overseas, as many of you know. And now the effort is, of course, to make that too expensive to continue doing. And so this is going to go back and forth a while. And I think it's probably wise for everyone to just anticipate that's just the way it's going to be. And China, of course, is aligned very closely with Russia and Iran, which we saw last week in their joint statement that they made concerning the United States' posture toward Iran. And so it's getting more interesting out there. And but at the same time, I do believe that ultimately, this whole peace thing is where they're going. So we got to get to the top of the roller coaster before we go for the big ride, right? So we're not quite there. We're kind of getting to the top of how many can feel that? We're like click, 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 and you're starting to anticipate that we're about to go from one of those, this is about to get wild kind of rides. So stand by, folks. I think this is going to get interesting, especially towards the middle of the summer. And moving toward the fall feast. So as we move toward the fall feast, you're going to see some real interesting things manifesting. And I don't mean interesting in the very good way. I mean interesting in a not so good way. France, as a matter of fact, doing something that, as a matter of fact, when I saw this story, this is the story that when I saw it, I said, hey, we need to put our survival guides right there on Remnant Watch. And I apologize for not having done that sooner. We've made them free for a long time, but it didn't occur to me to put them on Remnant Watch. And so please forgive me for that. I did do that. I repented and said, wait a minute, we should make this available. So the French are now preparing to issue survival manuals to all their households because, and these are very simple things. They're just simple suggestions and things that people don't think about until disaster is upon them. And then when disaster is upon you, it's hard to think straight. So right now they're putting this out because I do believe that they are anticipating conflict. The French government reportedly is planning to send a survival manual to all households containing advice on what to do in the event of an armed conflict, natural disaster, or health crisis. The document consists of around 20 pages and is divided into 3 parts, according to Europe's One Radio, the first being protecting yourself and those around you. So there's a lot of heightened understanding that we are headed into some very difficult times. So no matter how much they say peace and safety, we need to be wise enough to know that sudden destruction may follow. And that is a very, very sound way to think. Now, if you happen to be wrong and nothing happens, great. You prepared for nothing. And there's no harm in that. But if you didn't prepare, you will feel it if something does go wrong. And China is actually going through some internal problems that I do think is going to keep them a little bit occupied. So on the same day that we saw that report, we also saw this report. China's military is going to war against itself. And what's going on there is a purge of those that are influenced by certain, well, let's call them international influences, are being removed from China. So this is actually better than you think it is. Don't be alarmed at this. I believe this is good news. And what could be the most dangerous developments in the world today? The Chinese military is tearing itself apart. Xi Jinping has been purging officers for more than a decade, but other officers, it appears, are now purging Xi's loyalists. The main propaganda organ of the People's Liberation Army is printing pieces openly criticizing his rule. And the Chinese military is apparently emboldened in its worst crisis since Marshal Lin Bao died in a mysterious plane crash in 1971. What's going on now is a massive, massive purge of those that wanted to bring us to a different conclusion, if you will, and that have other plans for humanity. Without wanting to go too deep into those details and into those weeds, my suspicion as I watch this, folks, is that what we're seeing here is actually a good thing. And so I do believe that there are those that were hawks to go to war with the United States and with others. And I don't know if you're picking this up, but there's a massive change in atmosphere. And now the push is toward peaceful resolution, usually economic peaceful resolution. So trying to come up with better economic arrangements, but nevertheless, the effort is toward peace, which is a good thing. And speaking of peace, this is a really interesting development. I don't know if you guys were paying attention to this, but France is throwing its head in the ring with regard to the Middle East peace process. So that's kind of interesting, don't you guys think? I certainly think so, that France is suddenly going to do that. France says Saudi Arabia and they are going to co-chair a conference on the two-state solution. Now, personally, I believe if you guys were paying attention over this last year, you know that Israel had to restart its state, if you want to call it that. They had to refile in London. So maybe this is part of that process. French President Emmanuel Macron says he spoke with Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, and the two leaders condemned the resumption of Israeli strikes in Gaza. And Macron says they will co-chair a conference on a two-state solution aimed at helping to revive a political perspective for both Israelis and Palestinians. And I do believe, again, that Cooler Herald, that they're trying desperately to bring this to pass, because otherwise it's going to be the end of Israel as a state. And so there's a lot of pressure. Many people think, oh, Israel's winning. No, Israel is near dissolution. The internal war that is going on in Israel right now is severe. And you've got protests going on. You've got various things happening right now. So Israel's not experiencing a very good atmosphere. It is internally collapsing as you have wars between different factions of the government without a constitution. So just understand that Israel does not have a constitution like the United States. That's the supreme law of the land, right? That you can use to settle debates. They don't have that. And so Israel may tear itself apart as we watch. And this is a very, very interesting thing indeed. Meanwhile, back in the eastern part of Europe, Trump is weighing recognizing Crimea as Russian territory to bid and in a bid to end the war. And I do believe that that is a foregone conclusion. They're just slow walking it to you. The Trump administration is considering recognizing Ukraine's Crimea region as Russian territory. It's already done as part of any future agreement to end Moscow's war on Kiev, according to two people familiar with the matter. And I'm certain that that was one of the, probably several conditions that Vladimir Putin demanded as part of any potential deal that they may make with Ukraine and the United States and NATO to cease conflict. But I do believe that that is a very, very difficult thing to pull off. And I don't believe that the Russians are quite as inclined as Mr. Peace President Donald Trump. And so the Russians are rejecting the full ceasefire, but they do agree to stop attacks on energy and infrastructure in 2-hour Trump calls. So they have agreed to no longer attack the infrastructure, because if they did that, they'd bring the war to an end in a real big hurry. Russian President Vladimir Putin rejected President Trump's proposal of a full unconditional ceasefire with Ukraine on Tuesday, but agreed to halt attacks on energy and infrastructure sectors Kiev has recently and successfully targeted. Elsewhere, in a 2-hour phone call, the Russian president demanded that Trump cut all military and intelligence assistance to Ukraine, according to a readout from the Kremlin. So we did find out that there was a point at which there was a disconnection of that support. However, we did also find out that that support did resume. So what are we seeing here? We are not really sure. Again, we've got a bit of, wag the dog for those of you who understand what I mean. But I also believe that there is a bit of maneuvering because of the amount of issues that are going to be that are going to come out post-war. So post-war is a messy business, and I think what they're trying to do negotiate how that's going to be released, because some of the stuff the Russians found when they went into certain parts of Ukraine, well, let's just say it's embarrassing to certain groups, right? And it's going to come out. All of it's going to come out. We're going to get a chance to go over that. So I'm sure we'll see some of those things as they release. But just so you get a quick heads up, this is going to get dicey. And so this is where it is. And getting back over to the Middle East, their ceasefire has now ended, unfortunately. And so now Israel has resumed strikes in Gaza after Hamas refused to release hostages. Officials say the airstrikes mark a return to the Israeli military campaign against Hamas following the January 19 start of a ceasefire. So Israel strikes on the Gaza Strip eliminated the head of Hamas's government and other key terrorist leaders in a wave of violence following the collapse of their ceasefire agreement, Israeli forces announced on Tuesday. And the Israeli Defense Forces and the Israeli Security Agency, also known as Shin Bet, said in a joint statement that the airstrikes eliminated Essam al-Dailis, head of the Hamas government and the most senior figure of the authority in the Gaza Strip. So they continue to kill leadership, and they continue to attack. And if you were paying attention, you know that the Houthis went ahead and attacked back, even though the Americans made some parking lots over there. So again, this is far from over, folks. Sit back, grab a comfortable chair on this issue, because we're going to be here a while and it's going to take a minute. But I do believe it's coming to a crescendo. Some of these details are coming out, and this is kind of interesting how some of this stuff is unfolding. And so pay attention, but don't be too concerned with some of these things, because, again, a lot of it is theatrics. We saw a whole lot of reports that Elon Musk was going in, he's going to be getting the secret plans to China. That turned out to be fake news. Trump denies Musk to be briefed on top secret plan for a potential war with China. I mean, that was kind of silly that even was pumped out there. And so now they're going to be dealing with leakers and people that put those stories out. And again, they're always constantly trying to find a way to basically throw shade on what is happening. And so this is going to continue on. This is a distraction, my friends. Remember that, because one of the things that we know is that he told us in the scripture that these kinds of things would occur. And this is more than, this is continuing to happen on an extended basis. It's almost as if, like, if you didn't see the last 5 times some of these things happen, you're going to see a few more before we move on. This is, I believe, the grace of Almighty Elohim. And so just understand that. And we're also tracking this story. This is very interesting. So how many have been aware of the U.S. aid story, that a lot of the corruption that we suspected was in the federal government, we found it in U.S. aid, right? So there were a lot of things that were being funded by this. And the president did a speech in Congress to elucidate some of those things. And nevertheless, more and more of these details continue to emerge. And I didn't know this. I bet you didn't know that. Barack Obama was using U.S. aid to pretend to send aid overseas, but it was laundering it to train rent-a-riots instead. What? This just came out yesterday. And this is the Gateway Pundit is reporting that this is what occurred. Basically, they're alleging that President Obama used U.S. aid to pretend to send it overseas, and essentially started bringing that back. So if you're wondering where some of the funding for some of these riots and for some of these conflicts that we've seen within the country, which is, I got to believe there's something actionable. Does anybody think it's interesting with all this fraud we've seen? Nobody's been arrested. There's nobody in handcuffs. So that's interesting, right? I mean, so some of this is just theatrics, but it does explain things that we wondered, right? So there you go. Anybody who thought, I don't think this is legit, well, there you go. You've got your confirmation. Nobody's shocked. Everybody wipe that shock look off your face, but nevertheless, this is where we are. And so I think confidence in federal agencies and so forth is probably at a new all-time low. There's been some very interesting confrontations, chilling moments when a CIA gunman is arrested after showing up at HQ armed after the JFK files are released. Everybody calm down. This happened 50, 60 years ago, everybody. So calm down. But chilling images captured the moment a disheveled, suspected gunman was taken into custody outside the CIA headquarters on Wednesday morning. And the CIA went into lockdown. So I think they're really nervous about that information coming out. I think they tried to do some damage control to make it look like they weren't involved. But I think the truth of all of this is just coming out too fast. And it's not something that can be put back. Humpty Dumpty can't be put back on the wall again. So I believe we've got ourselves quite a challenge here with some of the information that's going to be coming out. And this is why it's really important, I believe, for us as the remnant to be available, especially to encourage our brothers and sisters wherever they may be. And speaking of encouragement, one of the things that I believe we're seeing a lot of that you may consider to be a bad thing. I mean, it's bad news, but it's good news. In the sense that the earth is responding. And as the earth responds, these are signs that man cannot create, right? So mankind isn't doing this. The earth itself is starting to react. And we're seeing more and more stories about volcanoes and geysers. Oh my, I actually have a fire that happened in Korea that I wanted to show you guys, but we're starting to see more and more things on volcanoes. And I just wanted to point this out because this was actually in Yellowstone, and it may have gone under the radar with some of the other volcano news that was coming out. And so I just thought I'd quickly point this out, that a new vent popped open in Yellowstone. So just to make you aware of that. And by the way, those of you that are suspicious of some of these fires, well, it's not just the United States that has some pretty suspicious fire activity. This fire was in Korea. This was suspected. Many are suspecting the same sourcing as some of the other fires that we saw. Without getting too much into it, I think you guys can figure out what I'm suggesting. And so we are at war, folks. And the scripture did tell us about how much of the earth would burn. And if you look at fire data, if you look at wildfires going on right now, you're going to see a lot of confirmation of those scriptures that warned us that these things were going to be coming, right? So we're not shocked, but nevertheless, we're still dealing with it. We're dealing with the reality of it, right? So this is important that we understand that the scripture is going to come to pass. And this is part of the great war that we knew would eventually begin to manifest in our world. So folks, we're seeing these things whether we like it or not. And fire is part of the last days. And so I just saw a graphic the other day with the United States, and it started like at Texas, and then it went east, and there were just fires everywhere. And I didn't even realize how many fires there were just in the U.S., much less around the world. So, yeah, a lot of judgment by fire, a lot of things just going up in smoke. And also the oceans are reacting. We're seeing some interesting things happening there. And this was a story that came out of Australia. We popped this on the screen as well. And hang on a second. Oh, got to remove this. Only so many spots. There we go. And strange foam and dead fish And this was really odd because of the foam. I'll show it to you in a minute here. Wash ashore in true Australian beaches as surfers fall sick. So look at this foam, guys. This is not a small amount. Like, it's not a little thing, guys. Look at this. It's a huge amount of it. So whatever this was, it was pretty bad. And let's see if I have any pictures of the fish. I hopefully do. Nope, they don't. Okay, well, the pictures I saw of the fish were pretty bad. Let's see if I can put one on the screen here in a moment. And essentially, you're seeing a lot of these kinds of things washing up. So we saw a story about that. And here we go. Let me get that on the screen. And we saw a story about whales and different marine animals, obviously, that are struggling, right, as a result of. So what does this portend? I don't know if this is chemically being done or if there's certain like vents being opened underground. Like, so we see the ones that are on the surface. We see volcanic activity. Maybe we're missing some volcanic activity that's going on under the ocean. This is the picture I was talking about, and you can see like the fish are obviously dead. So whatever this is suffocating or killing them in some way. Maybe we can have one of our resident fish experts tell us more about that. But this is definitely very hard to watch. And this is, again, part of the prophecies that we knew would come to pass. And so, folks, this is why there's a tremendous amount of concern about the things that we're seeing. And how many know we continue to see these plane crashes? And this is something else that I just didn't know. I mean, we've always had these. I mean, this crashes every year, right? So but it seems like there's so much more in the news. Doesn't it seem like that, guys? I mean, maybe it's just me, but we seem to be getting more and more airplane crash and airplane disaster news than, we sort of normally do, if that makes sense. And so that's why I'm saying, hey, what's going on here? 12 dead, including famous singer in a plane crash off Remote Island. At least 12 people, including U.S. citizens, have been killed after a small plane plunged in the Caribbean Sea. Fatal crash took place minutes after the mainland-bound Jetstream aircraft took off from the Honduran island, the Roatan, Monday night. And a dozen people were killed, and 5 more were rescued. And so this was a very, very a dangerous time. And a Honduran musician and politician, Arielo Martinez, unfortunately did not make it. And so there are a lot of stories about airline disasters or airline either problems or actual difficulties. Here's another story. I mean, a Southwest plane. Again, it's just this last week. We're just 1 week, guys. And a Southwest plane nearly takes off from a taxiway in Florida airport. So what? Yeah, Southwest Airlines. It's from the Hill. Flight almost took off from a taxiway rather than a runway. So we're losing our minds here, folks. We got the reprobate mind is coming in hardcore. And Central Florida Airport on Thursday before an air traffic controller stopped the plane. So we got some things going on, folks. We got to be much more aware of our surroundings because I think people are losing it. I really do. I think they're losing it. So this is going to continue to be an interesting issue. So I just thought I'd point that out to you. Getting back to some of the world events that are going on, especially towards peace. So I do believe that the saber rattling with Iran, hopefully, is actually going to end up in a peaceful resolution. But there are many that are obviously anticipating war. High-level delegation headed to Washington for talks on the Iran nuclear issue. And of course, President Trump continues to warn Iran with the intention on, with letting them know that there's going to be kinetic action at some point. And Strategic Affairs Minister Ron Dermer and National Security Advisor Jazaki Hanebbi are flying to Washington next week for meetings with senior U.S. officials, an Israeli source tells the Times of Israel. And according to Walla, the senior Benjamin Netanyahu advisors will discuss the Iranian nuclear program and the possibility of U.S.-Iran talks. So is it possible that they're going to have a discussion and avoid it? Oh, I suppose it's possible. But remember that there is that Albert Pike prophecy, guys, and they tend to want to do those things that they told everybody they were going to do. So we're going to watch and see with great interest. And if they do bring us to war, it will be the end. And the king will put it out himself, just so you know. So if they get their way and they bring the world to the edge of oblivion, just know the king himself will intervene. And we are seeing that Europe is marching on its own, and it's planning on moving without the United States. Why is that important? Because you're not going to find the United States directly named in scriptural prophecy, inferred but not directly named. So this is an interesting development as European military powers work on a 5 to 10 year plan to replace the U.S. in NATO. They're planning to go without them. So what do they know that we don't know? What do they know that we don't know, right? Europe's biggest military powers are drawing up plans to take on greater responsibilities for the continent's defense from the U.S., including a pitch to the Trump administration for a managed transfer over the next 5 to 10 years, the Financial Times reported on Thursday. The UK, France, and Germany, and the Nordics are among the countries engaged in the informal but structured discussions, the newspaper reported, citing 4 European officials involved. So, what a shock that an alliance is forming. Interesting days we are living in, indeed. Interesting days. And that is going to continue to happen. I wonder if the Muslim community or the Arab community that has basically taken up major residence in Europe knew that they were being invited in so that they could then be conscripted. I wonder if they knew that, because a lot of them came to Europe to escape war. I'm wondering, what do you guys think? Do you think they knew that they were going to go to Europe and suddenly be conscripted? Watch this. This ought to be interesting. And I think you're going to keep seeing more things happening in Europe. So Europe's going to become an interesting place to watch in terms of terror threats and conflicts and the scriptures, again, being fulfilled. Again, war and rumor of war. And we did know that fear would strike the hearts of people as iniquity abounds. And terror cops lead probe into blaze, which sparked Heathrow Airport carnage as government says it could be shut for days. So there's very serious stuff going on. A huge fire shuts down major airport in London. So this is not a small thing, folks, and it's going to continue to get hot out there as more and more conflict continues. I believe we're going to keep seeing conflict. I don't think it's going to go away anytime soon. It's going to manifest in various ways, but these things are going to keep happening. Switching back over to domestic, some very real weird stuff, folks, and this is definitely mark of the beast, or beast technology rather, stuff going on here, where their surveillance technology is kicking in. And I don't know if you knew this, but everything you say to your Echo, your Amazon Echo, will be sent to Amazon. Everything you say, no matter what it is going to be sent to Amazon starting March 28th. So they're letting you know. Since Amazon announces plans for a generative AI version of Alexa, which basically is being fed by your conversations. So they're snooping on you so that they can program their AI for obviously people control purposes. And this is getting very, very dicey as we're seeing these things, manifesting, coming to pass. But hey, maybe the reason why. So, I mean, let's not think nefariously, right, guys? I mean, maybe why they want to do this is because they just want to give you a puppy. Maybe they wanted to give you a puppy. Did you ever think about that? I mean, you might be just conspiratorial. I mean, maybe they just wanted you to have a nice little dog or something. You know what I mean? Just a little puppy dog. Except it's a robot dog. Robot dog learns, adapts like human, Swedish AI startup Intuicell says. A Swedish AI startup company has created a robot dog named Luna that has a fictional digital nervous system capable of learning and adapting like humans and many animals, the company Intuicell said on Wednesday. Yes, you don't need an actual animal. You don't need an actual puppy. What you need is a robot puppy. That's right, a robot dog. Don't have a real dog that, you'll have to love and take on walks and feed and care for. No, we wouldn't want to do that. We want a synthetic dog. Unreal, folks. There's some days that I think we have really left and we're somewhere else. It's just bizarre. And now again, I think we're going to see domestically, on not so funny a point, you're going to see more and more domestic violence. So hang on, folks, to your hat. Those of you that are, paying attention, this is one of those things that we knew was going to be coming. We didn't know what would spark some of it, but we're already seeing a very, very big pushback is starting to build out there in the United States against some of these cost-cutting measures and some of these Doge efforts. They're not being received quite the way that we thought they would be, that most people thought they would be. Some people are actually hating quite a bit. Okay, so no good deed, file this under no good deed goes unpunished. Musk's hating hackers. Can you see this, guys? Can you believe this? This, by the way, I don't know who did this, but whoever did this, a single car gets hurt as a result of this, this person is going to be in serious trouble. Musk hating hackers release names and addresses of every Tesla owner in the U.S. with chilling symbol. Elon Musk hating hackers have doxed Tesla owners in the United States, releasing an interactive map showing their names, addresses, and phone numbers and emails. What? The disturbing website called DogeQuest also provided the locations of every Tesla showroom, charging station, and known residents of Department of Government Efficiency employees. Whoa! It even lists FBI Director Kash Patel's home and uses a symbol of a Molotov cocktail as its cursor. So anybody confused about where we're headed? Molotov cocktail. Oops. This is not good. This is really, really, really not good. Okay? This is not good. You guys seeing this? Yeah. So it isn't a joke. It's serious. They mean it. And they're actually doing it. They're attacking Tesla dealerships now, which is not only a crime, but it's a horrible degradation of the nation. That instead of having a discussion, instead of sitting down and saying we don't agree on something and let's discuss it, we've now resorted to just burn stuff. So again, fire apparently is the answer for everything, right? A bomb, burn it down, burn it, right? It's the answer to everything. I just think that's very sad. And I think there's a lot of people in the world that are suddenly waking up to how serious this type of thing is. And did you guys hear about the sonic weapon that was used by in Serbia? And now there's a growing investigation that has now come out. I don't know if you heard about this or not. I just keep getting these pop-ups. Excuse me, guys. And there's calls growing in Serbia for investigation into claims that a sound cannon targeted protesters. More than 500,000 people signed a petition after a powerful sonic impact. And this is wild, folks. Here, I'm going to show you a video so that you can get an idea of what this thing did. Yeah, as soon as they activate that sonic weapon, here, play it again. As soon as they activate that sonic weapon, you'll see the cloud immediately. So this is the power of sonic or frequency-based weaponry. Frequency-based weaponry is very dangerous. If you know anything about frequencies, then you know that all matter vibrates. And if you are able to use weaponry to bring vibration, you can cause soil liquefaction. You can cause literally sinkage into the dirt. And if you dig into that, you're going to see that I believe that is what weapons were used on Earth at certain points, which caused some of the cataclysmic events that we are all documenting and seeing now as we go forward. So The uncovering of weaponry that is utilizing sound or waves or frequency is highly dangerous. And that's the reason why we were concerned, if you all remember, about 5G, was the frequencies and so forth. But it's not just that. It's all of the frequencies being used for various things that are very damaging to our health, from Wi-Fi to televisions to all kinds of devices and so forth. And so, yes, I do believe that you're seeing a slow release of the weaponry that has caused devastating effects throughout Earth's 6,000-year history. So we have yet to see all the weapons that they've come up with to do harm. And many of them are plausible deniability weapons, so that you can't necessarily pin the person or the group down who actually did it. Again, with all this fraud, and we still don't see anybody in handcuffs. Isn't that interesting? Does anybody else find that interesting? I do. All right. Did you hear about, this is an interesting story, switching gears. Again, all things uncovered that must be, all things covered must be uncovered. So this is one of those Bible prophecies that many people might overlook. They want the more sensational ones, right? The more, fun to watch or obvious. But there's some of the more subtle ones. And one of them is that there will be nothing hidden that will not be revealed. And that is that everything that was put in the darkness will come abroad. So Jehovah would cause these things to come out so they would not be hidden. And so that's what makes this next story really interesting to me. Excuse me. Remove that. And we'll put that on there. And scientists say they have discovered a vast city underneath Egypt's Giza pyramids. You guys hear about that? That was crazy. But of course, the experts are coming to throw in some shade, but it is very interesting. The groundbreaking discovery beneath the Egyptian pyramids has taken the world by storm. I think the reason why they don't want to talk about this is because not only did they already know they were there, they use them regularly. It's like a train station, I bet. Italian researchers claim to have uncovered a vast underground city, which stretches more than 4,000 feet directly underneath the pyramids of Giza, making them 10 times larger than the pyramids themselves. The bombshell claim, which many experts claim to have already debunked, come from a study that used radar pulses to create high-resolution images deep into the ground beneath the structures, the same way sonar radar is used to map the depths of the ocean. They can deny it all they want. Fact is, it's there. So, it's there. There's a lot of things underground that you don't know about. There's entire train systems underground that move at Mach 2. There's all kinds of things underground that you don't know about. So this doesn't surprise us at all. But it's interesting that it's coming out to the light. That's interesting. The fact that it's being revealed. And so, yeah, somebody said the pyramids are a giant obelisk. That could very well be a whole lot of mud on top. Right. So that's very interesting stuff. I just thought I'd share that. I thought it was a really interesting FYI, which does indicate to us that we're moving closer because all these things are being revealed. Now, another one that I think will eventually get opened up would be that Vatican vault. Don't you guys think that Vatican vault ought to get cracked at some point? Don't you think we should get a look at some of the things that are in there? I think so. Who wants to see what's in the Vatican vault? I want to see what's in the Vatican vault. I want to get in the Smithsonian and see what they buried. No, you guys want to get in there? So there's a few more things that are hidden that need to be revealed. But I think it's interesting when we see these. The mountain hasn't completely moved, but I like the direction the rocks are rolling, if you know what I mean. If you know what I mean. Moving on, the FDA is recalling things. So we got to be careful with the food thing. Again, we're reminded periodically. I like to throw these stories up so that you don't get too comfortable. One of the things that we all have come to realize is that we can't trust what's being given to us in not only in any of the supply lines, but especially the food supply line, because there are people that are trying to hurt us. And the FDA is recalling popular cheese brand and 4 states over possible metal contamination. Guys, this is just the stuff they're catching. They're not catching a lot. The FDA has issued a recall for over 4,000 bags of popular cheese sold at Aldi over fears of possible metal contamination. Aldi's Happy Farms Colby Jack shredded cheese, wow, popular brand too, has been recalled after fragments of stainless steel, wow, were found in the product. Cheese is only being recalled in 4 states: Connecticut, Michigan, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. So if you're in any of those 4 states, be aware if you do buy all these Happy Farms Colby Jack cheese that you may want to just toss that. It may have metal. You might want to run a magnet. Why don't, stainless steel? No, you can't run a magnet on it. So yeah, sorry, no iron. If it was iron filings, you can get away with that, but no, it's stainless steel. You can't do that. So I don't think you can anyway. So unfortunately, you're going to have to be much more vigilant about your food. And how many are all going, wow, we are, whether we like it or not, we're going to have to grow our own food. You're going to have to grow your own, raise animals. You're going to have to, if you eat meat, and some don't. And I respect that, the people that don't. So I don't want to start that whole deal. But, you're going to have to be more self-sufficient is the point. And I do believe that we're heading in that direction. So folks, grab a hold of that. Take that hint, because I don't think this is going anywhere. In fact, I think our confidence is just going to continue to decrease in institutional food, big pharma, big everything, big ag. I think all of our confidence is going to get shook as we go forward, folks. So keep that in mind and be aware of that. And then, we're going to continue to see, again, things that we shouldn't even know about. And there's some things that I don't even want to know. Things like this, which, by the way, I just got to say this, because this came up several stories. And, in biblical times, young women started their sort of adult life a little younger. We're not there. Okay. So people messing around with young teenagers and messing with that needs to be put the kibosh on that big time. Okay. And as a grandfather, I know some of my military veteran friends out there feel the exact same way. There's a line, you cross that line and you got problems with a lot of people. Just saying. You don't just got problems with one, you got problems with a whole lot. Yeah, you can shred your own cheese, folks. You can make your own cheese. You go on YouTube and learn how to make your own cheese. You don't have to buy it. That's really where you're headed. So eventually you're gonna have to get there anyway. But look at this, a female minister. So all of you thinking it's only the guys that are doing some of these wicked things. Well, no, sometimes it is women. Female minister for children resigns in disgrace after admitting a boy 15. Same thing. It doesn't matter if it's a boy or a girl. Doesn't matter if it's a boy or a girl. Iceland's minister for children. Are you kidding me right now? Does that say what I think it says? Yeah. Iceland's minister for children has resigned in disgrace, and she was accused of having having relations with a 15-year-old boy when she was 22. And so, and obviously getting pregnant, you kind of hard to deny that. How many are getting really, really tired of seeing these stories? And they're all over the place. I didn't even cover them all. I didn't even put them all in, but they're on Remnant Watch, and several of them are hard to read. They're really hard to read, because it's amazing to me how many people think that it's okay. And there's something about this age too. We've had several stories about 14 and 15 years old. So if you have a 14 and 15-year-old, if you got children in that age bracket, it's like they're almost old enough, and they're very naive, and they're very easily taken advantage of and easily victimized. Please keep them safe, keep them close. Amen. And be very sober and vigilant about your young people. Please, please, please. Here's another example as to why. And I hate sharing these stories, but here they are. Former megachurch pastor Robert Thomas turns himself in on child sexual abuse charges. So we keep seeing these stories, and I believe this is Yahuwah removing these things. This is a massive, massive purge that's going on. It's started flowing a while ago, and it continues. And this is a Texas megachurch pastor of Gateway Church, and he turned himself in because apparently they covered a story back in 1982. So things that they thought they long got away with, okay, have a way of coming back to get you. And we all have to deal with that. It doesn't matter who you are. You could have near perfect record. That one thing that you did is going to come back. Believe me, I can tell you that. Yeah, I'm tired as well. It's getting really, really hard to stomach some of these reports, but I put them out there, folks, not to turn your stomachs. I'm a dad and a grandfather. It bugs me the same way, believe me. But I put them out there to make us aware, to keep us sober, because we get a little relaxed, right? And the next thing you know, we're putting our child in some dangerous situations that we didn't realize until after they're victimized. And, as a parent of 3 daughters, I can tell you that, it doesn't take long for something to happen that will affect them the rest of their lives. So take that as it is and protect your children. So there's that. And don't, with step parents and, uh, these blended families, they create increased risk. This is where premarital pastoral care is really important. A lot of people they skip that. They didn't used to, but they do now. And as a result, we end up with some disastrous situations. So, folks, things are getting difficult as it is. We don't need to make it worse. And this next story is really interesting. It's more domestic, but it definitely deals with the tightening of the circumstances here in America and around the world. And I think that you're going to start to see more and more of these types of controls implemented because of where we're going. We're headed toward a control matrix, and this is something we've anticipated for years. Trigger taking $200. So all you got to do is hit $200 now. It used to be 10 grand. Used to be 10 grand. Okay, taking $200 out of an ATM should not trigger federal financial, right? Even in a county that borders Mexico. But nevertheless, they are targeting. And so be careful, be aware that there's going to be continued economic controls, economic restrictions put in. You're going to be dealing with a lot of different things that are going to start to happen. We're about to see increase in pricing. For example, how many heard about the beef crisis that is looming? Yeah, there's a beef crisis looming, and steak prices are about to soar as restaurants battle cattle shortage. So supply crunch hits amid rising demand for red meat. And this just came out. So steak prices are soaring across Britain as cattle in shortage pushes the cost of beef to record highs. Guess what, folks? It's not just Britain. And so we're going to see an increase of cost of goods, a cost of food, cost of taking care of your family is going to get more and more difficult. And we're going to need more and more creativity to get it done. And that, unfortunately, is where we are. Economically, you're not going to be able to just sit back and expect everything to work out. I think you got to take things a lot more seriously and personally. Unfortunately, what we're seeing is families are literally under attack, and there's no seeming end in sight. There's continued attack against the American family in every way. In fact, there was a report out on Remnant Watch. You guys certainly can go take a look at it, where more and more people are just not even opting to get married. Okay, not understanding that there's a 10-generation curse on unwed children. I don't understand why people don't just take a chance to read their scriptures, but there's a reason why the devil does the things he does. The Department of Education is getting hacked. This is a good thing, I believe, because we found out that billions of dollars were being used politically and weren't actually going to education. So, folks, be really careful about putting your children in these situations. The White House said the initiative seeks to turn over education to families instead of bureaucracies. This actually is the right direction. That's the right direction. Families need to take more and more responsibility for that, and I'm very happy to see that there are more initiatives going on in the United States and really around the world, but especially here in the U.S. that are encouraging it, and now more states are working on measures and initiatives that allow the money for children that normally would be going to a school to go with the child. So if you want to put the child in a private school or or any variation thereof, now you're getting those opportunities. I do believe that is a good thing. So this breaks some hegemonic power on education that I believe needed to be broken. So that's very good. And lastly, I want to just point out this last story is something for for all of you who, especially those of you that are intercessors, but really all of us who are believers, to pray. Because for those of you that may be familiar, in 1999, I went around the United States to 40 cities with a jar of brimstone declaring, prepare for the coming persecution. And persecution is all around us, and we're dealing with it at levels that we've really, frankly, never dealt with before, and we're going to see it get worse. But I want to invoke and encourage you to pray for our brother. And there's an American pastor who's actually offering his life for a Nigerian pastor that's sentenced to death by hanging. American pastor is offering his life in exchange for a Nigerian Christian sentenced to death by hanging, and basically defending himself from an attack on his farm. And this missions pastor from Infinity Bible Church in the South Bronx, a shout out to you, my brother, because that took courage to say, I would rather switch places with him than let you kill him. And as a result, it draw international attention. And more and more people are now paying attention to this incident, and that's a good thing. So it took courage. This man's courage is now possibly going to save this other man's life and draw attention to this very dangerous atmosphere that we have now found ourselves in. So stand by, folks. I think we're going to keep seeing more and more of that conflict. That's why we need that 24-hour prayer. That's why we need prayer around the altar, praying for our brothers, praying for those in battle, praying for those that are on the streets, praying for those that are winning souls, because he who wins souls is wise. That praying for those that are putting them in the water, praying for those that are sharing things in public social media platforms and so forth. That's all warfare, folks. Haven't you ever noticed that whenever you post a meme or post a video or maybe post a broadcast like this, that there's backlash? That you see a reaction? That spiritual reaction indicates that it's working. It's kind of like the bubbling that happens when you pour that hydrogen peroxide on something infected. The bubbling tells you, yeah, it's working. Hey, I just wanted to mention this since they just came in and some folks were waiting for them. The new 2025-2026 Zadok priestly calendar is in, and it is gorgeous. So we're really excited about it. And so just a quick update, we just got them. So my first opportunity to let you know that we just got them in. We did have a little bit of a printing issue that they had to double check with us, and that slowed us down just a little bit, but we'll be getting them out to our members right away. So again, thank you all who are part of this house, who make these broadcasts possible, who are part of the vision to see healing in the nations, to see the gospel preached throughout the world. Amen. And so if you're part of this house and part of what we're doing, well, we're so thankful for you. And we encourage you to be a part of what he's doing now. Find your fold, find a place to connect, find a place to be a part of the preaching of the gospel of the kingdom. Whether you're doing the preaching or partnering with the guy who's doing it, let's get after it. Let's get him in the water. Let's make this happen. Amen. Many, many are counting on us, folks. And they need you to shine your light before men, that they would see your good work and give glory to your Father in heaven. Well, that's it for today. I pray this broadcast has been a barakah to you. Again, thank you for liking, for sharing, and for subscribing. It's always a pleasure to serve you. May Allah Hayam Baruch each and every one of you. Good night.